This is something that people have been wondering. Which one of you got more into Bitcoin first?
I'd say Eric was a little bit earlier than me, actually. You know? I got a lot of my time for the last decade has actually been focused on politics, and it's sort of nice to be like, hey, we've run our last race. Now I'm fully, out of that space and to get back into focus. I think we all sort of experienced it a little bit in that, between the two of us, I think we're the most subpoenaed people in the history of the world. I think I've done more congressional testimony than anyone, and what we learned in those processes as we were debanked, as we lost insurance, as people that we would have been able to call and they would have picked up the phone call on the first ring for decades no longer even answered, we realized how many of the traditional sort of TradFi systems were actually broken. I always likened it it was a Ponzi scheme that we were a part of that we didn't realize we were a part of. We were just so far up in the pyramid that it just sort of worked.
Holy shit, that guy's so honest.
I love it.
Wow.
That
was brilliant.
And you realized how many people in America probably were getting screwed, whether it was because of political beliefs or things that they had done, and they didn't have those opportunities. And so this whole notion of democratizing finance, that's not going to be done in the traditional banking ways. That's going to be done in crypto.
I fucked it up right at the end.
Fumbled right at the goal.
Every single person in here got those calls, right? I mean, Don and I were getting these on behalf of commercial buildings, on behalf of hard assets. Hey, guess what? Your bank account is gone. The 600 people that you have working in the hotel that's 700 yards behind us right now that I built, you no longer have a traditional bank to bank that hotel because they don't like the fact that you're wearing a hat that's red that says, "Make America Great Again." Guys, we probably would have never found crypto had it not been for the very same scumbags that were coming after all of you. I mean, how many people in here? I've heard the stories from everyone. How many people in here had Wells Fargo call them up and, you know what? I owned 1 Bitcoin, and because of that, they found out and they canceled my accounts. I mean, my accounts just stopped working. And guys, you realize how corrupt the system is. I mean, every single person this system was weaponized. Traditional finance was absolutely weaponized. And, I always say, the enemy of your enemy is often your friend. That's what happened between the Trump family and the crypto community. And I'm not sure if we would have won the same way. I think we would have won, but I'm not sure if we would have won in the same decisive manner had it not been for this incredible community that was by our side the entire time. And I hate using the word hate, but honestly, I would love to see some of the big banks go extinct because honestly, they deserve it.
These guys and Trump, they say a lot of things that I like.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
they really do. Yeah. And they seem to be, the more the establishment or the more pushback that there is against them, the more I get the feeling that they're here to do good things. Mm-hmm. But I just have such a tough time trusting politicians. And then, it seems that for all of human history, people that are in positions of power like this abuse it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. To the extent what he's saying is true, which is a big grain of salt you need to take, I really like what he's saying, right? He's like, these banks were impeding the normal capitalistic process, and we were able to circumvent that bullshit with Bitcoin. That's great. That's what Bitcoin's supposed to do. Love it. You have to be careful, though, when people start to, this is that orange washing term, right? They use those stories to try and wash everything that they're doing politically, et cetera, as if it's all good for capitalism. But and yeah, I don't know. It always comes back to just life. I know I'm such a broken record. Life, liberty, property. Were you doing it consensually or not? Basically is the line. It sounds like if you just started a hotel, that's all consensual, that's all good. Your bank rug pulls you. Well, that's what Bitcoin is designed for. Mm-hmm. But then when you start to try and use Bitcoin towards political ends, which it's not that great for, actually. This is one thing Bitcoin sort of sucks at, is using it towards political ends.
What is that? What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, when
what's an example?
So it gets into the definition of politics, which is an interesting one. Anywhere there's power struggles between people, which is basically all human interaction, you have politics. That's the very broad definition.
Yep.
The more narrow definition would be like fiat politics, where you're using Bitcoin to promote a re-election campaign, right? In a fiat state hierarchy. That I think is a little, it's just inauthentic, basically. So that's the inauthenticity or the disingenuousness that I think I'm wrestling with here. It's like, yes, you guys are telling the truth. Bitcoin is good for capitalism. It does all these things. However, you can't just mutate that into vote for me, democracy is good, let's go blow up people on the other side of the world. You know what I mean? So there's this mixing of Bitcoin and fiat, which is a natural part of Bitcoin's monetization. Yeah. But we have to be vigilant of where we draw the line. Like this is a Bitcoin ethos and philosophy. This is not. And I think that when you cross that line into statism, that's my line.
Yep. All right, I dig it.
You know, and the fact that they've been allowed to get away with murder for as long as they have is honestly kind of shocking. I use this analogy all the time, but obviously I run a very big real estate company. Every Friday at 5 o'clock, we're waiting for a wire to come in. The SWIFT system is broken, but not a single person outside the crypto community has talked about this system that's so fundamentally flawed. It works 40 hours a week, barely. You have traditional banking in this country that runs 9 to 5 with an hour and a half lunch break. Go try and get a mortgage on your house. It takes 120 days, of which case at the end of it, they deny you even though they've banked you forever. They say your money's safe when, you deposit $1 million in a bank and they keep $100,000 of it and they go spend your money somewhere else. You go try and pull out more than $5,000 and you're on some terrorist watch list somewhere. I mean, the whole system, guys, is broken. And now all of a sudden you have crypto, which solves all the problems. It makes everything cheaper. It makes it faster. It makes it safer. It makes it more transparent. It makes the whole system more functional.
So the Trump family built this real estate empire, and they used the banking system and fractional reserve lending and leverage to do so. So I'm maybe a little bit confused, but he's kind of hammering the banking system, which is what he used to build the real estate empire. So if they're going to, get onto a Bitcoin or crypto standard, where does the leverage come from? They have to integrate that into the existing banking system. Maybe that's what he's talking about with DeFi. But then where's the money come from? Where's the fiat come from?
I don't know the whole story, but I would venture to guess that, like most real estate entrepreneurs, I know a lot of guys in real estate, they all fucking hate the banks, right? Because you're wrestling with the banks all the time. Yeah. Because the name of the game in the fiat paradigm is, well, acquire the real estate, hold it forever, borrow against it forever, a la the Sailor, New York strategy. Yeah. So you have this opponent processing all the time between the real estate entrepreneur and the bankers. Like, that's a legit thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that you have to use money and liquidity to do business. So they're kind of like using what is there to get their business done. Yeah. I don't know what the leverage situation would look like in a sound money world. What I was looking for was this is the tweet, my money in the bank. It's not money. It's not in the bank. It's not yours. Mm-hmm. Study Bitcoin, basically, right? That's the key. That's one of the key memes that I've seen and sent out recently that's gone somewhat viral. And hopefully that gets your brain on the right wavelength. Like, it's not these guys talking about waiting for wires to come in at 5 o'clock. It works 9 to 5, sort of, mostly. It's not money. It's not money, right? It's not private. It's not property. It can be seized at any time. It can be deauthorized. It can be frozen, reversed, surveyed, all these things. So what I am picking up on is like a real estate entrepreneurs' frustrations with not having access to a real monetary system.
But in a real monetary system, there would be some sort, like on a gold standard, the fractional reserve lending and the nature of this fiat debt-based system, the liquidity isn't there and the appreciation's not there. If you look at Austrian economic theory, the real estate is actually going down in value in real terms. Maybe in a fixed location like Manhattan or Miami Beach, where there's only so many parcels, maybe it can maintain its value.
Or wherever the energy of the city is pulsing, right? That will go up in value in real terms. But if you denominate all that stuff in gold, there's very few places real estate-wise that have appreciated over the past 100 years. Yeah, Miami Beach, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, places like this. But to the broader point, it's like, well, how difficult is it to predict where the next hot spot will be in 100 years, buying that real estate today, when you could just own some sound money,
right?
Which is this like non-indexed, non-index fund, non-counterparty interests in all the entrepreneurial success of everyone everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You wonder why these massive buildings that dot the skylines of every city around the world, you wonder why these buildings even exist, and the thousands of people that are pushing antiquated paper in these buildings. And guys, they're fearful of this room. They're fearful of all of us, and they better adapt, otherwise they're going to get run over, and they're going to get run over really, really quickly.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.